Hi everyone, and welcome to our Horror Clown podcast. I'm Critic Claire.
And I'm Fan Geek.
And we're going to talk about some of our favourite horror clowns today. It is a bit exciting. We've got 5 different texts to get through. But first of all, we wanted to start with a little bit of backstory about the clown and why is it so interesting. Are you scared of clowns,
No.
Fan Geek?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Did you grow up...
That's why I find it sort of interesting that people get scared by clowns or have that, I guess, I don't know, you've got the term written down there somewhere.
Yes, calrophobia is the legitimate medical term for having a fear of clowns. But actually, it's quite rare. So a lot of people don't like them or they give them the heebie-jeebies, but they don't actually fit the medical category.
Okay.
Did you grow up with clowns?
Not that I really recall having that many clowns in my life. But no, I never had that fear either. Or I was never freaked out by them. I know some people get freaked out by, things like Ronald McDonald or Mickey Mouse, people dressed up in costume.
Yes.
Some kids get a bit scared, or even Santa Claus. Some kids don't like Santa Claus too much. So, but yeah, no, I've never had any issues with that sort of stuff.
It's funny. The clown is. I'll talk a little bit about the history of the clown really briefly. I found this fantastic article by Derwin, dated in 2004, and I'll actually put the full reference up on our website so that if you're interested and you want to have a look at it, you can find it and have a read. And Derwin says that the clown, often called Cloyne, C-O-L-Y-N-E, and other similar names, dates back to the 16th century. But in actual fact, there are similar kind of joke-like characters, such as the trickster from Norse mythology with Loki.
I was actually thinking that when I was sort of trying to do a bit of research, I was thinking of Loki as well, and then that obviously ties into the Jim Carrey movie The Mask, which is another version of that take on the trickster.
Yes, exactly right. And the Fool, if you go back, if anyone's a fan of tarot cards, there's the Fool card in the tarot. And of course the medieval court jester. Mm-hmm. But apparently in ancient tribal cultures, they also had like a trickster character, and they had clown-like or clown-type rituals, which is really interesting. If you go to the medieval era and you look at Mikhail Bartkin's theory of carnivalesque, the clown is almost a comic representation of the upper classes. So the clown's often associated with being lower class. And then when you look at the circus clown, he often is depicted with as having stubble and perhaps as Derwin argues, the alcoholic red nose. So class starts to come into the clown, and also that clumsiness, that oafishness, and also this servitude that you're there at the expense of your own ego or self-respect to make a fool of yourself for other people's entertainment. But what's interesting is that although there's a happy clown and a lot of still clown images feature in children's literature and television and film, there's also that dark side, which I find interesting. The dark side can often date back to, if you look at the opera Pagliacci, which is the sad clown. For those Seinfeld fans, you'll know the episode I'm referring to. And Pagliacci I'll just briefly give you a backstory about the opera. So it features a storyline of Canio, who's an actor, and his wife Nedda. And the first act, they're actors, and they're talking about how they're going to dress up in the second act and come back as different clowns. She comes back as Columbine or Columbina, and he comes back as Pagliaccio. And Nedda is having an affair with another man. Her husband, the actor, suspects. But it's in Act 2 that Pagliacci actually catches her conspiring to leave him, and he ends up getting a knife and stabbing her to death and stabbing a man who intervenes. So that the sad clown, and the famous aria that comes out of that is a famous example. Also, for the Soprano fans, you'll know in one of the early episodes of the first season, Tony Soprano in his early session with Dr. Melfi is actually describes himself as the sad clown, laughing on the outside and crying on the inside. So you have this idea of the clown being happy but also sad, and the charming, innocent clown, but then also the manipulative, homicidal. So we want to talk about those kind of themes here in today's podcast. So Killer Clowns from Outer Space was filmed in 1988, and that's our first film we're going to talk about, made by the Kyoto brothers. Cable, what did you think of this film?
I posted this on Facebook when I was watching it and got a lot of interesting comments.
Right.
I think pretty much along the lines of get a life, Cable, what are you watching that shit for? Because, I mean, even the title alone, you just know it's going to be ridiculous. And I understand why it's got a cult following. For a movie with such a small budget, I actually think the clowns and the creepy faces, or the clown makeup or the clown heads that they did, were fantastic. I just think they were really good. They all had their own sort of character, but then that's, probably where a lot of the budget went. The acting was mostly terrible, and some of the other stuff just ridiculous, and a lot of the other sort of the special effects that were like the ray guns and turning the people into the fairy floss were just, again, very cheap. And
my favourite when the car's driving down a dark street and the clown's just levitating driving, and the long shot of that, the effects was just really, really poor quality, really cheesy. So just in case the title doesn't give it away full enough for you, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is about a small country, or not a country town, but a small town in America, and people see this huge, what they think is a comet, and it actually is a group of aliens that take the form of clowns, and they end up killing. Well, they end up killing a lot of people, but they wrap them in a pod, which is similar to candy floss or fairy floss, we would call it here, and eventually they are stopped for the most part. It's the thing is, I guess, and you and I have said this before, some films and texts, you've got to take them for what they are.
Yep.
It has low budget, I agree. The puppets were fantastic. The Kyoto brothers actually did the puppetry on Team America. So they have that's the kind of speciality, and I think the effects, like the sets inside the mothership, which was shaped like a circus tent, like all of the colours and the sets and everything, I thought was great.
Yeah, no, I thought that side of it too was really well done. Like that, it was like they spent all this money on the clowns, but I think just that the finishing touches, it was almost like they had actually run out of money, or they hit the budget and said we need a bit more, and the studio said no fucking way. Look, it was a corny concept, and I can understand again why it was a cult thing. I think the whole popcorn, the candy, wrapping people in cocoons of fairy floss, cotton candy, whatever you want to call it. What they were actually doing with them, I'm not too sure. Were they harvesting or whatever? I do remember, obviously, one of the clowns coming in and putting in a straw and slurping the blood, or slurping the human essence
or something.
Out of them. But, I mean, because the clowns didn't talk, they just made sounds, there wasn't so much of a motive or an understanding of what was actually, apart from them just taking over this town, there wasn't a hell of a lot, there.
I likened it, and many other, and this is not an original thought of mine by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of people say, look, it is very reminiscent of the B-grade horror films of the 50s, and it is. What I loved about it was the fact that they used sort of the accoutrements, or the things we associated with clowns and circuses. They used them in different ways, and I thought that was kind of clever, like the killer popcorn and the balloon dog that came to life and was leading the way. And also I love the fact that these clowns were very bright and colourful. You couldn't really see the menacing evil until you really looked into their eyes and they opened their mouths and you saw their sharp evil teeth. And, you know, they suckered in the old lady and did, you know, shadow shows for them, and the little girl nearly got it. And I liked that play on, it didn't take itself so seriously. It was just this identity of everyone loves a clown, like irrespective of the age and generation. Everyone was drawn in by the clown initially, and that was their secret weapon, so to speak.
Yeah.
One last mention of this cult B-grade film is the mayor out of several Dirty Harry films. That actor plays...
John Vernon.
Oh, John Vernon, thank you.
I was going to say, that was the one thing I thought was almost surprising about the movie, because, you know, again, maybe this is the background we come from. I went in expecting, it sounds like a ridiculous premise, so it's not going to be a massive budget. There's going to be no-name actors, but then I see John Vernon in there, and obviously for me, very famous in Animal House as well.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And you know, he's played some great roles, very authoritative roles, and he's in this, and I think he's almost was he the sheriff of the town or not?
Yes. Or
he was
the senior police officer. Yeah.
And the thing about that, I think, was almost the tongue in cheek, was he was, I guess, the audience, because he just saw how ridiculous the story of Killer Clowns was.
Yes.
No, I was really surprised he was in it. For the movie it was, and I don't know whether he was paid well or maybe there was connections and they got him, and I don't know, but he was good in it.
Yes, I think it's, again, if you're wanting something really tacky and you're wanting to see some cool clown puppets go crazy, then get Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We'll move on now to very iconic tele-movie version of the book It by Stephen King. I think Tim Rice, his performance traumatised generations.
Curry.
Oh, sorry. I always get Tim Rice and Tim Curry confused. Sorry, Tim Curry's performance. Well, because Tim Rice, I think, is the composer, isn't he? Sorry about that. Tim Curry. So, he is Pennywise. What did you think about it?
I remember when it showed on Australian television the first time, which I think was 91-ish, and it was shown over the 2 nights, a Sunday and then a Monday, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the time, my mum was pretty protective of what we saw on TV anyway, so I remember not being allowed to watch it, but thinking Dad may have recorded it, because I definitely did see it, and only re-watched it a couple of weeks ago. So, is it a great movie? No. It's definitely got a lot of promise. Tim Curry as Pennywise is really good, and I have to agree with the director. The director's since come out in the recent years, or maybe in the commentary, did say that the second part, which is more focused on the grown-up adults, is a lot weaker than the first part. And I have to agree. I did love the first part because I did like the relationship with the kids and their fear, and it did have a very, very Stand By Me feel to it as well.
It did, didn't it? Yes.
And I mean, that's another Stephen King story,
yes,
or movie. So I did really like it. I can understand why a generation, including one of my good friends, I should have a shout out to, Christian Saunders. He said it scared him and scarred him for life with clowns. So I understand why a lot of people, when I told people that we were doing this, and I know a lot of people come back to it as being one of those things where clowns just for them just were one of those things. Pennywise just scarred them for life, and clowns are never really something they look forward to.
I never watched it in my younger years. I only watched it, I think, last year for the first time. And Tim Curry, he just enjoys himself so much. He's also, it just reminded me also of his performance in Legend as the devil character that he played. He is just so brilliant. The other thing I would like to say is I don't feel that the telemovie does the book justice, in the sense that Stephen King's horror novels, and I'm hoping that at some stage we get to do a Stephen King podcast, but Stephen King horror novels have a lot of dense and rich emotional psychological backstory, so that when the horror elements come in, as a reader or a viewer, you're more invested, and it is more horrific because you have almost gone on a journey with these characters. His written books don't, for me, always translate as easily and readily into television or film. And I say that with a heavy heart because I'm such a huge Stephen King fan. I recently watched Salem's Lot, the original telly movie with David Soul and James Mason. And it just, again, the book was far scarier and horrific than. So I think that I think Tim Curry was fantastic. I love the story. I just think the telly movie wasn't as scary as it could have been because it became a bit too soap opera and melodrama. But I loved the clown in that.
Do you think, though, any book that's going to be 1,000 pages plus is always going to struggle to translate to the screen, even though they did do it as a telly movie and it was split across 2 episodes?
I think the thing
would it in today's standards would it have been better off being a TV series?
I think the thing is, if you got the right director that was willing to build the suspense more, and I don't want to jump ahead, but that's what I loved about Clown. If you're willing to invest, and Alfred Hitchcock put it beautifully, show the audience the bomb, but keep them guessing as to when it's going to go off. And that's what it is. It's all about building the suspense. And unfortunately, a lot of mainstream American productions are more about the action and the events. They don't want to keep it dragging on by building the suspense. So I think that it can be done beautifully. Like Harry Potter, they split the last book into 2 films, and because they had to. And that worked a lot better than previous large books that they condensed into 1 2-hour film. So I think it can be done. It's just, they've got to have the right director and the right cast and script and everything else.
Though it was a nice surprise to see Seth Green in one of his first sort of roles.
I know, I freaked out.
Well, I did too, because when I put it on, I obviously remembered John Ritter passed away. Jonathan Brandis is no longer with us as well. And some of the other characters, but I don't know why, I just forgot Seth Green was in it. And I guess, you're so used to seeing Buffy or Austin Powers or Robot Chicken and doing other stuff, and then putting that on and going, oh my god, that's Seth Green. I forgot he was in this movie. Yeah, it was a nice little sort of surprise.
I do, and I also think there are moments in it where the horror of the clown really comes into the fore, like, just he calls their names and there's that eerie kind of thing, and one scene in the bathroom with the girl and seeing all the blood, those flashes. I think those were good attempts at building the suspense, but yeah, I do like it. And as we know, they're remaking it, so I'll be really interested to see what they come up with the new version. Should we move on now to All Hallows Eve?
Yeah, if you want to.
All Hallows Eve. Talk to me.
Well, we should say it's a recent movie, 2013?
Yes.
It's about, or how the movie starts is we have Halloween. Is it Halloween night? Yes.
Yes.
So 2 kids have come home. They've got their bag of candy that they've collected for the night. They're with a babysitter or / the parent's friend that's looking after the kids. The male or the young child finds a video cassette or VHS video cassette in his bag of treats, wants to put it on, puts it on, and then obviously some sort of horror movie that looks very realistic is played out, featuring a clown.
Yes. I don't think we ever find out the clown's name. This is quite a B-grade film. The director had several attempts at this storyline just as short films to get the character up and running. It is a B-grade film. I loved, and I should also note that when we've chosen these, there's so many other clown films that we could have chosen. There's ones that are actually far more horrific and gory. But the point, I guess, is that we wanted to choose ones where the clown is approached and depicted in different ways. Part of the film within a film, so the film within a film, there are parts of that I loved. I loved the fact that the clown is in black and white. He's got white makeup and he's got black, and he's only got a small little hat and no wig. And yeah, I found that really chilling and quite eerie. I loved the first vignette where he... was it the first one where he injected the girl at the train station?
Yeah, that's the first one,
Yeah, I really liked that, and I liked the third one. They were probably my favourite little stories of the film within the film. I have reservations about other aspects of the film, though.
Yeah.
And this sounds ridiculous. For me, a good horror film is one where I forget that it's a film, that I'm watching it and I've entered the story world and I'm so engaged and so engrossed in it that I feel like I'm there. That for me is a good horror film. This one I didn't feel that because the babysitter annoyed me. Like, what's wrong with you? Because the youngest one was what, 12, 13? The babysitter allowed this the younger of the two children she was minding to watch the horror film, and I was horrified at that. So I know that sounds silly, but that to me was not plausible. The movie didn't sort of, as you suggested previously, if the babysitter had been younger, say 16, and did that, we would have gone, okay, that's understandable, bad choice. But that irritated me. What did you think of that part?
We spoke quickly off air before about this, and I agree. I think the fact that the supervising adult is, you can see quite visibly older, and I think narrative-wise that is explained. But yeah, from maybe trying to appease the kids a little bit and sort of shut them up a bit. Okay, let's put on the video. But I still think it was very... Yeah, there was a part of me going, I just don't buy that enough storyline-wise. That to me makes sense because there are parents that are irresponsible,
yes,
older people. But I just didn't. I felt like it just didn't seem right for that character as well, because I think she's definitely thinking about it. Doesn't need to go on, and maybe we should turn this video off. But she doesn't put her foot down. Where an adult that age you think would just go, "No, I'm turning it off," or whatever. So I think it really needed to be a younger female in that role to really sell it. The other thing we did joke about, and look, I don't want to sound really anal because we did a short film together once in a previous life, but I'm a bit anal about things, and I do like seeing my old school stuff like a VHS and that, but I guess from a visual point of view, I understand why it was a VHS and not a USB stick or a DVD per se, but I felt like the use of a VHS tape in 2013 and the fact that they had a player, for me, just didn't seem... It didn't feel right. It doesn't... Again, that felt like something you would get if you're watching a 90s horror film, not a 2013 horror film. And for me, that just felt a bit like... I don't know.
There are certain codes and conventions of how you depict things in film, isn't there? And things can't be ambiguous. Like, they've chosen a VHS very deliberately, but it was never revealed as to why VHS versus, as you said, USB or DVD. And that was, I think, a product of the fact that it is a B-grade, low-budget film. Also, I agree with the babysitter that... if we were going in knowing that she was a really irresponsible adult, that needed to be played up more. It needed to be more overt. But her development as a character was quite ambiguous. She was kind of, you don't watch it, but then really weak on that point too. So it was almost anecdotal. It was so this is a silly saying I have. You can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the boat. You kind of got to commit to. She's either, no, you're not going to do this, and then they sneak and do it anyway, or she's like portrayed as really irresponsible from the beginning. But anyway, so
what do you think of the first film, the first
story within the film?
Yeah,
I really loved that. I think that was my favourite, and that really drew me in to the film. I liked the clown, and I like the fact that they don't talk. That scares me. Going back on a point... I was just going to say, going back on a point you raised earlier, I have two loves in horror. I have a love of films where I don't need to know the motive behind the villain's desire to kill. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in All Hallows Eve, it's complete and sheer horror because you can't second guess them. You can't outmaneuver them because there is no rhyme or reason as to why they're just wanting to inflict pain and enjoy it. I love that. But I also do love trying to understand, and when there is a motive or there is a reason. Like, for example, Rob Zombie's take on Halloween, where he tried to fit in this psychological profile of Michael Myers. I enjoy that too. So it didn't bother me this time that there's no rhyme or reason. I didn't like the second story of the film within a film.
I agree.
I thought that was weak, the storyline. But the first and the third I thought were great. So in the car...
Yeah.
Where she's trying to escape.
Yeah. No, I just thought the second story, I agree with you, with the alien, it just didn't seem to fit. It just seemed... I think you did say before, this was like he'd tried a few short films previously or whatever.
Yes.
That's like that. It was like that was a compilation. That video that was played is a compilation of the short films he's done.
Yes.
And it was a culmination of his work. And I think the alien for me, I don't know, I got it, and there was parts of it I think were really good, but I mean, it just, for me, didn't fit the film at all.
I didn't mind the idea. I like the idea. It was refreshing to have a film within a film and have little short stories. And one thing that we did talk about off air, I got frustrated because they made such a big deal turning the VHS on and off, hearing noises, and then nothing happens. So they've built it up that someone's, presumably the clown, we don't know, someone has slipped this VHS tape into the boys' trick-or-treat bag, so there's a physical contact. You keep hearing noises, or she keeps hearing noises in the house after the kids have gone to bed. She goes to check on them, but then nothing comes of that, and I think that was like a red herring, and that sort of, let the film down, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The third story I liked a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they did well with their special effects. There was a bit of a severed head action and stuff, and a lot of blood pumping and all that sort of stuff, and the chase in the car and running around, and I think someone got shot in the head and all that sort of stuff. I really liked it. I just didn't like you. Sometimes there's that really amazing, when there's no motive, it's even more full on. I don't have an issue with that, but I felt like the death scene or the girl waking up, being still alive, I actually thought that, for me, it went too far. Don't know if I should give too much away, but I think the fact that she's pretty much got no limbs and she's scarred and she's got, words, cut into her as slut, the C-bomb is there, and a few things. I just thought, for me, I feel like there needed to be, for her to be in that point of her life where she might as well be dead. I think for her to, for no motive, not to have a motive, for her to be in that position, for me, was just too full on. I think it needed to be shown that either she screwed somebody over or was a tramp or a prostitute or something to justify her ending up that way. If you get my drift.
Yes. So
I think they just went a bit too far with that. I think...
Well, I'm going to counter that well-constructed argument with, in that article I mentioned by Derwin in 2004, there's a quote from Eric Idle saying that clowns behave like children. There are no boundaries. They've got the grotesquely painted faces. And if you think about as well, the real life case of American serial killer John Wayne Gacy, famous association with clowns.
That was my segue.
Yeah, did you like that? In Chicago between 1975 and 1978, Gacy killed and sodomized 33 young boys/men. He used to dress up and volunteer as a clown at sort of charity events for children whose name was Patches or Pogo, depending on what he did. I think the thing is that in cases such as, because that end scene for me from All Hallows Eve, segueing back, that you're describing, that mutilation and that very sort of misogynistic attack, it was really reminiscent of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The actual Swedish title of that is The Man Who Hates Women. So, and I don't know if you've seen that, her social worker rapes her and she gets revenge by tattooing rapist pig on his stomach. So it reminded me a little of, it was a bit reminiscent of that. And I think the thing is that you're right, if it had have been just, carving up, torture, mayhem, that's sort of all harmless, homicidal fun in their world. But the words are what threw me, I think. The words seemed quite personal in the attack and targeted. And so I agree, that was kind of a bit NQR, not quite right. But having said all of that, overall I did enjoy this film. I loved the clown. It is B grade, and I've watched so many horror films, and it takes a lot to surprise me. Yeah. And All Hallows Eve surprised me.
Does the mime come from the idea of a clown?
It is linked, it is associated, yes.
Because I felt like this clown too, and like you said, like the makeup, the black and white, I felt like this clown was verging on being a mime, like because it never spoke, there was never sound, and especially in that scene at the train station when he's with the girl. Yes. And he's doing all that stuff, it was very mime-esque. And I was at first I'm like, is he a clown? Is he a mime? Or he's just a melding of both, or what's go there, but
well, they're all very interrelated. They're all very interlinked. If you think about like the old Harlequin type and mimes and all of that, there's this idea of concealing one's true identity, creating a new identity for the purposes of entertainment, and also in this case for deception. Yeah. So they're very much related. So yes, I agree. All right, let's move on now because we've got a couple more to do, and I think we're going to talk about them a bit more too. Let's talk about the more recent season of American Horror Story. And we had a great clown character in that called Twisty the Clown. Mm-hmm. Sadly, though, he was only in there for 4 episodes.
And even then, that's probably not a lot in
the
scheme of things.
If I may, I'd like to start on this one this time, if I may.
Oh no, go this is your baby.
I love American Horror Story. I've watched every single season. I still think season 2 is my favourite. Season 4 had a lot of hype. It was the Carnival of Freaks, and Twisty was no exception. The problem is, so Twisty is just to give you a bit of backstory for the plot. Twisty is a clown who, again, is depicted almost in black and white, would you say, very grubby. And the bottom part of his face is concealed with a half mask of a really evil-looking black and white smile. And we get
very exaggerated.
Yes, very Batman Joker-esque kind of wide smile. And we learn a bit about his backstory. We learn about what he used to be like, and that he was quite a simple man who actually enjoyed playing and working with children as a clown. He was then bullied and got depressed, and he attempted to kill himself.
I think he was bullied as well, but I think there was that ambiguous kind of perception that he was
a pedophile
or molester or whatever, and obviously he wasn't. He's just a little bit simple, just loved doing his work. But I mean, whether that was true or not, obviously the bullies played that up, and that's where he felt, oh, maybe that's am I? And I think he even had doubts in himself, and obviously then, like you said, got that depression and feeling like he was wanted and all that.
So he psychologically was in a bad place, and he's used a gun to kill himself, and it didn't work, but it blew off his bottom jaw. So that's why he has.
Ouch.
Yes. So that's why he has the little mask to cover up his lack of bottom lack of jaw. So anyway, that's Twisty's backstory. So he's now, all of those events have made him, sadly, a psychopath. So he is featured in the show as kidnapping and killing people. Unfortunately, though, a supernatural being kills Twisty off in the 4th episode. So Twisty's only around for 4 episodes. What did you think of Twisty as a character?
Yeah, I did like. It was a sad character, and I think he was an interesting character. Like you said, like 4 episodes, but it's not like the episode's solely focused on him. There's other characters within those stories. So I think probably we didn't see enough of him, or probably his story arc, he probably could have had more. Not too sure, but what can you do? I mean,
he was such. I think the thing is that on one hand, I can understand the decision to kill him off early because they don't. It is an ensemble. It's very much an ensemble television program. Yeah. They featured Dandy, who's another serial killer in the making, another great character, and of course another series of the carnival freaks and their backstory, and Elsa, of course, the headliner. So I guess that was part of it, and also that they didn't want to be predictable. But the problem I found is that after Twisty left, Dandy was not interesting enough to really fill his shoes. There wasn't that complexity in the character as much as I felt there was with Twisty. Twisty was a great clown. He never even feigned to be happy or to lure people in with joy or happiness, which is a little dissimilar, I think, to the other clowns we've talked about so far, because in all of the other texts, the clowns use their persona as a clown, as an entertainer, to draw people in. Trust me, I love people. I love making them laugh. Twisty didn't even go there. He didn't even bother. There was no pretense or attempt at that at all, and I kind of really enjoyed that and loved that. I think a classic moment was when Dandy's mother picked him up from the side of the road and paid him and took him back to the mansion to play with Dandy. 2 serial killers got to, have fun time in the nursery, as you do. Did you want to add anything to Twisty before we move on to the piece de resistance, Clown?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So, Clown came out...
Actually, no, sorry. I will.
Okay, yes.
Do you think, even though there's a part of me that wanted to see what was under the mask, do you think they should have revealed the mask? Well, sorry, when he took off the mask, to reveal the damaged jaw from the shotgun.
You're going to laugh at me. I didn't actually know it was a mask.
Yeah, I am going to laugh at you.
I didn't.
Should I do a clown laugh or just?
You can do a sound effect there.
No, it's all right.
Or you can go bum bum. Bum bum.
I can tell it was a mask. It was very good. It was almost like a prosthetic, wasn't it? Like it was built to look very much like it really was part of his jaw and his face, and it was just maybe an amplified part of his makeup, but.
I noticed it never moved. I did notice that, but I guess I was so drawn into this. What I was saying earlier is, all films are about the suspension of disbelief. A good film will execute the script with good plot lines, great acting, etc. it'll create a story world very masterfully that you enter without question, and you actually give credibility to what's happening, the characters, etc., events. That was me, I guess, also because historically I'd built up that trust with the show, particularly in season 1 and 2, more so in 2. So I went in more engrossed in the character, who is he, what's going on, and I didn't really pay too much attention about whether it was a mask. So for me, I guess I was a bit surprised when it came off, and I was like, well, of course, Claire, it's not his face. Yeah. So I was, the big reveal for me was a bit shocking and added to his creepiness, which I really liked. He's one of my favourite clowns, I have to say, so far.
Good old Twisty. We should move on then.
We should move on. Let's talk about Clown. Clown was a film that didn't actually have a theatrical release in anywhere but Italy, I think. I don't think it had one in the United States. It definitely didn't have one in Australia. It came straight to DVD. There were complaints in Italy about the film's poster being too graphic. So they had to change the poster slightly.
That's correct.
And Clown, I really liked Clown. Clown had, again, arguably it could be regarded as another B-grade horror, although it had some good actors in it. It had the lead actor who plays Clown. I've seen him before in Oz, and he played one of Schillinger's prags in Oz. If you haven't seen Oz, awesome. You need to watch Oz. And also there was a couple of other famous faces. His wife is also quite a well-known actress, and
Laura Allen.
Laura Allen, yes.
Andy Powers was in Oz. Is that who?
Yes, Andy Powers, and the Swedish actor who has been in Fargo, Chocolat. I can't remember his name.
He's in so much stuff.
He's in so much stuff.
Peter Stormare.
Yes, so we had quite a decent cast in this one. So Clown is... Are you happy for me to do the plot?
It.
Okay, so Clown...
Or do you want me to read it straight off IMDb?
No, we're better than that. We can do a better job than that. Well, you can let us know if you think we do a better job or not. So Clown is about a real estate agent, Andy Powers, and his wife, and they've got a son, Jack. So Jack is having a birthday party. He loves all things clown. They've booked a clown to come and entertain. So what's Andy's character's name?
Kent.
Kent, it is too. I just watched it last night, I should remember. Kent is a real estate agent. He's just wrapping up some work at one of his clients' houses, gets the call from his wife, the clown entertainment has cancelled, what are we going to do? As he's on the phone, he notices in the basement of the client's house, rather convenient, that there's a rack of theatrical costumes. He says he'll sort it and work something out. He finds this old clown costume, which turns out to be the skin and wig of a demon, and it's cursed. Cable, what did you think of this?
That was a good synopsis.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you were talking about the movie as a whole?
Or, you can talk about whatever you like. In relation to Clown.
I do sometimes laugh at these movies, sometimes a little bit, the convenience of there having to be a sort of clown costume or something happens to be in the house that he's in, but I really loved the concept. I loved the character of Carlson, which is Peter Stormare, and that whole background. I love when there's a horror movie that feels like it's real, or it uses real mythology to have an explanation or backstory to why this costume, or why it's, what like explaining what's happening. I tried to do a bit of research, and apparently a lot of that was just made up, obviously, for the movie, or maybe you found something else different, but
well, it matched the article I found. It was an academic article and matched some of it. Yeah, not in terms of the horror side, but in terms of the cloyns
and stuff.
No, I haven't looked that up. In terms of clowns being called cloyns, That is the correct term.
Oh, okay.
So there's part of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been fictionalised too.
Yeah.
But
having said that, they did it in such a way that it seemed legitimate, that he was doing research and this was a demon that was from, was it somewhere in Europe or something?
There is a mythical figure in Germany that is a clown, and at Halloween it comes and eats the children.
Okay.
So there is
because that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As you do. It takes trick-or-treating to a whole new level.
Yeah. I'll show you a fucking trick.
So... Oh, Jesus. So did you... Yeah, so you liked that aspect. What else did you like?
Well, I do, because I don't... Again, like, I don't mind a movie where there's no motive, but I feel like anytime there's a demonic kind of... I like when there's a good backstory that makes the story feel more real or plausible.
Yes.
And there's a bit of explanation, or someone's been doing their research and they've got their little book and they've got all their little notes and stuff. And I like that character had his research, and there was articles, and there was
yes,
there was a backstory. But then I felt like, even though don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed the film, but I felt like it then sort of felt like it just fell into sort of a bit of a cliche. Well, it was still good, but it was just, a few death scenes, a few fake scares here and there, and it was just like an everyday horror movie. I still enjoyed it. The ending, I did like the ending too, without giving too much away, because I think they could have really... They could have made it a really happy, friendly Hollywood ending, but they chose to go, you know what, let's go all out. And I did like that they went that far, but they did push the boundaries in certain aspects. I mean, I think we've already touched on it, that the Cloynes has to, before it hibernates, has to have, or in the month, it has to have 5 kids, or the 5 souls of kids, or whatever. And obviously that's the point of the movie, that this husband turns into this clown, and slowly he's got 1, 2, and it's about collecting those last 2 or 3. And obviously the mother of Jack, she's pregnant with her second child, so nudging on almost, give me the baby kind of thing, and it's like, where's this going to go? Yeah.
It's interesting, because I actually thought the plot was quite unique and inventive until you told me off air about the Paul Jennings books and the TV series based on the books, Round the Twist.
Yes.
Do you want to just mention that briefly?
Yeah, look, I'm not saying Paul Jennings created that story even then, and it's maybe a story that's been told a million times before, but when I did watch it, I did sort of think about a Paul Jennings episode where I don't know exactly if... Obviously, Paul Jennings wrote a lot of short stories here in Australia, and they were converted or made into a TV show, which he was the executive producer. He had a lot of say in, but they were kind of slightly changed to obviously fit in with the storyline of this family living down at Port Noranda. But the story goes that they an old suitcase / trunk washes up on the beach. They pull it up, and then when they open it up, it's got all these sort of costumes in it, and there's clown costumes in it. And when they put the costumes on, they take form of the people that used to wear them. They take on the personality. So, and that kind of has a creepy kind of...
Is there any killing?
No, it's Round the Twist. It's a kids' show. There's no killing, but...
but they change. They change as a result of wearing this.
Yeah, well, the male clown, they put the male clown's costume on one of the scarecrows they have in their cabbage patch, and then the female, the daughter in the show, she puts on the female one, but the male clown was in love with the female, but it wasn't reciprocated. But then it brings to life the scarecrow, and he sort of chases her, and there's kind of that weird kind of, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so...
Just
not quite unique, but I mean, again, Paul Jennings probably wasn't he was probably not the first person to come up with some sort of story
Yeah.
like that, but it did remind me of that the opening of the trunk.
But also, it's interesting in Clown when Kent goes to kill himself and he shoots himself in the head, and the splatter of multicoloured brain matter. That was very reminiscent of Killer Clowns from Outer Space as well. That exploding. I liked Clown. I liked the suspense. I liked the fact that it was trying to be a more sedate horror film and just have horror elements. But I agree. I don't think there was enough at stake. I wanted a bit more gore. I was upset when it was limited to 5 children. Yes. Yes, I am a sick bitch. Sorry. I wanted, because 2 of them were sort of accidental. Like one, he just bit the kid's finger, so that counts as one. The other one with the circular saws, that was accidental, so that doesn't really count. And Coulson was a bully, so you kind of like, well, he had it coming. He was a bully and he was going to end up being a serial killer.
I didn't care.
So he can eat his spleen, so that's fine. So then by the time you get to the first deliberate killing at the indoor children's playground...
Chuck E. Cheese.
That's like the first time that he's in his demon element and he's getting his kill on. And then it's cut short. So I would have liked a bit more, but I love the fact that the dog ate the nose, the dog got possessed.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really good. And also like the suburbia feel to it, that he comes into the house with this crazy story. This guy took an axe to me and he's tried to kill me and he's in the car, and then there's all, family or friends there. So I really liked Clown. We need to start wrapping up soon. Any final comments or observations about clowns in horror films?
They still don't scare me.
Really?
No, I did like Clown. It's worth going out to see. I hope we haven't spoiled it too much.
The effects are great. I love the effects. I love the transformation of Kent too.
Look, it's only a side note, but I got a Blu-ray copy of the film, went down to JB Hi-Fi, and got a copy. So it was fantastic watching it on HD TV in Blu-ray. I think it.
By the way, we have no affiliation with anyone, so we were not. That plug, Cable's not being paid. I'm not being paid.
Yeah,
you're not being paid, are you, Cable?
But the one thing I will be critical when a movie comes straight to DVD, or we don't see it in the cinema, and you do pay that little bit extra to get the Blu-ray or the DVD copy, the fact that it had no extras on it whatsoever was a bit disappointing. I would have loved to have seen even just a 5-10 minute documentary or something with the director or where the idea came from or something. Just give me something else.
But wasn't that just an original ploy to get people to buy Blu-ray in the first place? I don't think that that's a current habit. I don't think that they do that as a common practice for every movie now.
What,
that was only
features?
Yeah, that was only it was only originally designed to get people in to buy.
Yeah, but I think in this day and age now, people, they've always got a GoPro or they're filming stuff behind the scenes, and I think Eli Roth and that was involved in it. So I don't know. I just thought there was probably a chance that just something. The fact that there was nothing on it was surprising to me. But
All right, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you've enjoyed, and try not to have nightmares about clowns. And we'll be back again in the near future with another new podcast. So it's bye from Critic Claire.
And bye from me.